Okay, let's start. So Evie, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Evee. I live in Southampton. I'm a piano teacher. I teach children and adults from 6 to 83, and I love my job.
That's great. So you've been to China a few times, right? And have you noticed any differences between those two cultures?
Yeah, there's loads of differences. One big difference is that a lot of the culture is collectivist in China, and obviously in Britain we're more individualist, so things are done quite differently. We're brought up to be independent and to live on our own and to go and live away from our family, whereas in China there's much more of a focus on staying together as a family and eating together as a family, which we do sometimes in England as well. We eat around the family table. But more and more life's becoming very separated and everyone does their own thing. Whereas, something I really noticed last time I went to China was how all the generations of the family just seem to have such a close bond in China. And I was on the subway and I saw like a grandma and a daughter and a husband, and then the children, and the mum and the grandma were like holding hands because they are still so close. And I think that's very rare to find that kind of closeness even at that age in the UK.
How do you find talking to Chinese people?
I have a lot of Chinese friends, and sometimes it can be difficult to get your meaning across in a conversation. But generally I found that the more you persist with it, it gets easier, and you start to understand what phrases are helpful and what phrases are unhelpful. Using lots of idioms and in jokes will not work with Chinese people. They just don't get it. And also sarcasm tends to fall flat on Chinese people because they don't get that you're not being serious.
Okay.
But generally I've found that the conversations I've had have been really interesting, and you learn a lot about their culture, and it's so worth maybe the slight embarrassment that you feel from not being understood the first time or the second time or even the third time.
Well,
you might
even several years later.
Yeah, and I think English people, particularly British people, have difficulty with repeating themselves multiple times. Maybe after the third time we'll just say, oh, never mind. But I've discovered that my Chinese friends find that very frustrating because they'd actually like to know what you said and what you meant. And so it's much better to try and work out another way of saying it or slow it down, try and explain it a bit more. Even if it's not that funny, I think going through that experience humbles you to realise that you're not as funny as you think you are. But also it helps in growing that relationship with that person because you've bothered to try.
Have you found any difficulties of talking to Chinese people?
I guess some of the difficulty is that we don't have a shared background, so there are certain things from our childhood that are going to be very different. There are experiences with playing games as children that we don't share, and sometimes that might make it harder to talk about your upbringing. But when you talk to people that are British, there's often those differences too. So it's easy to jump to a conclusion that I won't get on with that person because we don't have anything in common. But actually, we do have a lot in common. It's just we
are human beings.
Yeah, we're all human, and we all like eating, and we all like sleeping, and we all like drinking tea of some kind or another. I think cross-cultural conversations are some of the most interesting. And it's so helpful to hear about how other cultures do things and not always think that our way is better.
Any tips that you could give to us to communicate with English better? Yeah, something you mentioned, like asking questions.
Yeah, I think asking questions is really helpful. Just take an interest in the people that you meet. Ask them why they do certain things a certain way. Why do you put milk in your tea? Why do you eat with a knife and fork? Why do you keep plants in your house? I don't know. Why do all English people have a garden? That kind of thing.
Yeah, let's show the garden.
We don't even like gardening, but we still have a garden. Yeah, just take an interest, and the more you ask, the more you'll find out, and the more interesting you'll find your stay here. And what else?
Yeah, so I know as international students, we sometimes worry about we see something offensive. So what should we do to be more polite to you? Like what kind of sentence we should use, and like how can we use please and sorry and thank you?
Well, in England, say sorry at every opportunity. Sorry. Yeah, you might say, sorry, I stepped on your shoe. But you might also say, sorry, you stepped on my shoe, but I was in the way.
And sometimes say, sorry.
Sorry. Yeah. There's so many different opportunities to say sorry. If in doubt, say sorry. Please and thank you go a long way. Just before you ask any question, say please. We teach that to children from an early age.
Yeah,
and thank you if anyone's done anything for you. And what else? Usually if you're asking something of somebody else, then you might say, would you mind possibly passing the sugar, please?
Yeah, that's very British. Like say something
if
indirectly.
That's right. And if it's not too much trouble, please could you pass me the milk? Yeah. We don't like to intrude on other people's time, or we don't want to cause a problem for anybody else, and so we put lots of, I'm very sorry to bother you, but
yeah, so being direct is quite rude in this culture, right?
Yeah, I think, if you just go past the sugar, we're like, get it yourself. Yeah, why can't you get the sugar? Yeah, that would be very rude.
Yeah. I noticed that especially recently, because of the coronavirus, lots of people worry about it, especially Chinese students. Their parents ask them to wear a mask every day, but actually people don't really wear that, and they worry about if they wore the mask and the people around them discriminate them. So how do you find it? And what do you think?
I think my knowledge of Chinese culture is that people wear masks not only to protect themselves from catching viruses, but to protect the people around them from catching it off them. And so to me, to see someone wearing a mask, particularly an Asian person, I know that they're doing that not just for their own benefit, but for mine too. So I think we should be grateful when people wear masks in public. I think actually what they're doing is very conscientious and thoughtful. And yeah, I'm kind of horrified that there are news reports of people being discriminated against and attacked. Like, I think that's just horrific. And there are a lot of people in the UK who just don't know and don't realise that they're wearing those masks to protect the people around them. And it's not just a selfish I want to hide myself from all of you. It's actually I don't want you to catch it off me as well. So I think we should be grateful for the mask.
Are you worrying about the coronavirus?
I'm not massively worried. I think the number of cases in the UK is very low. And I think I trust the British healthcare system to contain it. And I think the measures they've put in place already to quarantine people that have come back from China or from any flights from China, the people are being kept in quarantine situations. And so I trust that is doing the job that it's meant for. So I do feel quite safe. And I think the likelihood of it being very severe is only a small percentage. So for most people, it's just like having the flu. And so I think we don't need to be absolutely terrified of it. Yes, it's an awful thing to happen. But I don't think we need to be as worried as some people are.
All right, thank you so much for this video. That's great. Thank you. Let's stop here.